Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great end of the year of 2020. So, I wanted to do this as short as possible video to kind of chronicle the year 2020 and the pandemic, how I became a research nurse, and eventually why it is that I decided to get vaccinated. So I'll start from the beginning. And don't mind me, I have my notes here just to kind of keep my thoughts chronicled. So about September, November of last year, 2019, um, I wasn't feeling well. There was this one day I just came down with something really bad. I thought it was maybe a really bad cold, or maybe it was the flu. I've never had the flu before. Knock on wood. I've never had the flu before. Don't mind my dog. My dog Shadow is here and he's like barking for no reason. I've never had the flu before, but I have had a bad cold, and this really felt like something that I've never had before. I remember I called my friend Miriam in Baltimore. She lives in Baltimore, and at the time I was living in Maryland, about like 30 minutes away from her, but I was working in DC, so I had to drive 30 minutes up from DC to where I live, and then it would be another 30 minutes up to where she lives, so basically about an hour. She's about an hour away from my job. And the reason why I say that is because I was feeling so well that I was thinking, I don't think that I could drive myself home. I really felt chills, a slight headache, but the thing that really caught me off guard was in Creole they call it souffle en lait. So I would say souffle en lait. Basically, it was kind of like I was trying to catch my breath, but it's not like I was out of breath. It just felt like I was like almost hyperventilating in a sense where I guess the people that who work in the medical field would kind of understand this. Where it's kind of like a pseudo fever when you don't use what is it called? I think it's called the oximetry. You know what? I haven't been bedside in a while, and I haven't used the machine in a while, but basically it helps to expand your lungs. And the reason why you get a pseudo fever when you don't expand your lungs and your alveoli is because the little pockets in your lungs itself, because your lungs kind of look like the inside of your lungs actually kind of look like the end of a broccoli. You know, like it has a little like beads and everything. So those are what they call the alveoli. So when they start to like rub together, they create they trigger to your brain to increase your body temperature. Now, the mechanisms of that, I'm not quite sure what it is, honestly, but that is the reason why they, or in the medical field, post surgery, they tell you that you have to basically use this little machine that basically helps to bring up the strength of your lungs. So long story short, I really feel like looking back on everything, breaking everything down, it was probably my alveoli. I was just really struggling to catch my breath, basically. And my alveoli was like rubbing together, which triggered my body to possibly have a pseudo fever. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. I'm already too much into it. Okay, so anyhow, I felt really bad. I went to the store and I felt like I had to peel myself from the seat. I felt like I had to peel myself from the seat. Sorry, I'm wearing a white shirt and it's like, I'm like, there you go. I felt like I had to peel myself off of my seat in the car to even just get myself up out of the car into the store, because when I called my friend, she told me, get this, that, get some ginger, get some Theraflu, maybe just coming down with something really bad. So I figured, well, that's probably what it is. So I was in the store and I literally was shaking. Like, I really felt like I just wanted to lay down on the floor, and I don't want to say and die, but I really felt like I wanted to die. Like, I wanted someone to just pick me up, take me to the car, drive me home, and put me in bed. So when I got home, finally, by the grace of God, I got home. I took like 2 packets of Theraflu. I I took some ginger tea. I took some Tylenol. I bundled myself up. I got myself some Vicks. It's like a traditional thing. You get Vicks and you put it under your nose and your temple, on your temples and underneath your feet, and then you put like really thick socks on and you just sweat it out. So I sweat it out. At least I tried to. And for the next couple of days, I wasn't feeling right. So this is all to say that I really truly believe that, although I never was tested for it, I really truly believe that I possibly did contract COVID-19 back in 2019, prior to it being, front page news, beginning of 2020. So that's my personal story on the back end. So when it all broke out, basically all hell broke loose. At the time, it was December actually of last year, I became a research nurse, and my primary study was, I won't mention the name, but basically is for prevention of a certain virus. It's very prominent worldwide. So, I did the whole thing of going to Chicago to be introduced to the company and the drug and so on and so forth. And it was very enlightening. Anyhow, when we got back from Chicago, and about a couple of months after, basically all hell broke loose with coronavirus, COVID-19, however you want to call it. And I knew that it was really bad when the head of infectious disease at the place that I work at literally busted into my office. Like, door was like kind of cracked, and he just like opened the door and he was like, "You need to go home right now. You need to go home right now because they're closing all the roads. They're starting to do checks or whatever." And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I knew that, like, at the time, I believe it was around the time that the World Health Organization had just officially stated that COVID-19 is a pandemic, or it was right before. But either way, the head of infectious disease knew that something was coming down, and he was like, "You know what, you need to go home." Okay. So about a week later, I had to go to HR in the main hospital in order to get my picture taken and a badge, and also a letter written by the head of infectious disease to say that if I am on the roads, this is the reason why, because I am an essential employee. I'm a researcher. I'm a research nurse, so I need to get to work and back home. So they told me to present this to the officers if ever I was stopped. So at this point, I still was thinking, I don't know, like, it's not really that bad. Like, it's probably just, like a bad cold, like, I don't know, like, I know they say it's a pandemic. I know I'm supposed to be the scientific one, a research nurse or whatever. But I mean, honestly, if I'm really going to be honest with you guys, I was like, people are probably just like blowing it out of proportion or whatever. At the time, I had not treated, if you want to call it that, my first COVID-19 patient. So, my first study that I did, which I will not mention the name once again, basically it was a company that is now very well known. And the first participant that I had was actually a nurse that is a government nurse. He was visiting from another state and ended up contracting COVID-19, heard about this study that we're doing, which is drug versus placebo, and it's still in phase 1. So phase 1 is basically seeing if it's actually safe to give to people. So within that study, what I have to do is I have to get medical history, medication history, and also I have to bring the code card to the outside of the room. So a code card is, I don't know if you guys ever seen in the movies or shows where when they say code blue, someone runs with, a cart that has like everything you need, like fluids and things to start IVs and everything. So basically I have to have that outside of the room because I don't know, at this point, we don't know how this particular patient is going to react to this drug because we don't know if we're actually giving the participant / patient the real thing or the placebo. We're blinded to it. Okay, so even then, I was in the room with the patient and he was coughing and everything. I was still like, it's probably just him, like he probably has like a weak immune system. Honestly, I didn't even know what to think of everything. I'll be honest with you. I was in the zone. All hell was breaking loose, but I had not actually had time to sit down and actually process everything. So around the time, no, after this particular incident that happened with the first patient for this study, and I say incident because it was a mess. Okay. It was my first infusion with this study drug. I didn't know what to expect. COVID-19, we had to basically, I had never used this particular exam room, which was a negative pressure room. And I won't go into negative pressure. I guess you just have to Google that. But basically, just keeps the bad air from going all over the building. It keeps the bad air in that room with that infectious patient. I had to take the patient through a certain back doorway. It's a long story. Anyhow, so around this time, I saw in the news that Trump was diagnosed with COVID-19 and he received a certain type of treatment. I said, okay, that's interesting. And mind you, at that time, we were still in phase one, seeing the safety of these particular drugs. So it wasn't just one drug that we were testing out. There were a couple that were in hospital for the patients that were admitted into the hospital, and there were many that were outpatient, and I was more so involved in the outpatient one. So the infusion one is just one that I was involved in. I told you that it was a government nurse that was my first participant. And then I think I could say this one. There's Moderna. Some of you might have heard of it, the Moderna vaccine. And I found it quite interesting that a lot of these people who came in who were willing to either receive the real thing or the placebo, or as most people would say, to be the guinea pigs. I'm not saying that. That's what most people say, to be the guinea pigs of this vaccine, were not common people. And I don't mean like everybody's unique in their own way. Don't get me wrong, but I should say not common in career. Like there were a lot of head honchos that I met that I was like, you really want to be in this study? Because first of all, Moderna at that time had not been FDA approved. Second of all, you could either get the placebo or the real thing. And third of all, we don't even know what your reactions may be, because it would be one thing to say, oh, these were the list of the side effects from other participants, but you guys are the first participants in the middle of a pandemic, and this drug had not been FDA approved as of yet. But of course, this is a process that we have to do in order to send the information to the FDA to get it approved. So I was like, I mean, by that time, I had already convinced myself that this COVID-19 thing is a real thing. Just because it wasn't affecting me affecting me personally, at the time I had already forgotten about that whole incident that happened in September, November of last year, because like I said, I was just in the zone, just trying to make it day to day. And those were very, very long days. So I just thought, that's very interesting that these types of people would really want to participate in this Moderna vaccine trial. Okay. So eventually the team, we met and we figured, well, we're like 100. I mean, we were all stressed out. We were like 120% into everything COVID. So we figured, well, because we had signed a contract with these other companies to do the study and their trials of the other infusions for these other viruses outside of COVID-19, we should definitely, start recruiting, not just recruiting, but this is basically getting the information out there for those participants who were interested in those studies, to let them know, hey, we are still, we're still open, to taking new participants in, new patients in, who want to be part of a study outside of the COVID-19 studies. Now, while I was screening a participant for a whole nother virus, okay, we're still mid-pandemic, a whole nother virus, one of the primary investigators, one of the doctors, came to me after that participant left, came to me, closed the door behind him, and said, B, that's what they called me at work, we have someone from the White House coming in for one of the COVID-19 studies that we are doing. And I said, okay, all right, okay. And he just looked at me and he said, you cannot let anyone know that this person is coming here to be a participant in this. And I thought to myself, well, of course I wouldn't, because I would be breaking HIPAA. HIPAA is just basically saying that HIPAA is making sure, in layman terms, making sure that you don't leak the information or medical information or any other information of your participants slash patients that you are taking care of, or who have the viruses or whatever, who have any inquiries or whatever. Basically, it is kept secret. Sorry about that. It is kept secret. So there was a whole lot that had to be done in order to even get the information to this person's staffers. I had to be in contact with the head of security. I had to make sure that the informed consent, the paper that we give them or we give the participant to read, to make sure that they know everything that they're going to be involved in, was pretty clear, pretty straight, that I had the latest version, because all these things have to go through a review board. Okay. So I had to make sure all that was set and before I sent it out. Okay. So we won't go too much into detail about what happened at that time with that participant, because I don't want to break HIPAA. But let's just say there was a whole bunch of back and forth. And I mean, this person really wanted this particular drug, placebo or not. And mind you, this person is a very well-known person worldwide. I'll say worldwide, this person's a very well-known person. So at the time I was like, if all these head honchos want to be part of Moderna, okay, placebo oral drug, and it has not been FDA approved yet. If this other head honcho that's known worldwide, coming from the White House, is basically trying to get themselves in the front of the line, I'll say that, to get this study drug, when it becomes public, I want to be first to get it. I want to be first to get it. Because if all these people are getting in line to just participate in something that we're just testing out, we don't even know if it actually works, okay? And they're signing up and they're trying to get to the front of the line, that means that when it's available to the rest of us, I mean, that's not my only reason, but if I'm just using just that reason alone, I think that a lot of people should look into being vaccinated. That's not me saying that you should get vaccinated. Whatever you decide to do, you do. So this video is just me chronicling some of the things that happen in the background as a research nurse that caused me to convince myself basically that I should be vaccinated, that I shouldn't hold back and wait a little bit, because if all these people are just trying to get to the front of the line way before anything is authorized, that says something. And I should say all of these, not just all of these people, but all of these significant people when it comes to their careers are trying to push to the head of the line, then that's something that I should really look into. And then what really was the cherry on top for me that caused me to say, you know what, I'm definitely going to get vaccinated, because I'll be honest, I had my reservations. When the vaccines became available at the facility that I work at, we always thought that people such as myself, who are the frontline healthcare workers, but especially the research staff who were in the rooms with infectious patients, especially when I was doing the infusions, should be the first people to get this vaccine. Well, I try to be as vague as possible so no one can connect the dots so that I don't break HIPAA. There was another head honcho within the facility that I work at. And I mean, when I say head honcho, I mean like head honcho. Him and his wife were amongst the first people to get this vaccine. And it wasn't like to show solidarity with the community or whatever. No, it was like, I want the vaccine, and my wife, who I don't believe is a healthcare worker, is going to get the vaccine too. So I said, okay, if, like I said, people were signing up for Moderna, people were, that whole thing with the White House, and now this, then I should definitely look into getting the vaccine. So with the end of 2020, it's really been a very interesting year for everybody, including for me, especially starting as a research nurse. And then the pandemic broke out. And I was working, like, I kid you not, I would go in at like 7 and I wouldn't come home till like 8 p.m. because it was just pure craziness. But looking back on everything, coming for full circle, I really do believe, like I said, that I possibly did have COVID back in end of 2019. And if that is what it feels like I said, I had not been tested or to see like antigens, if I had any antigens in my body, in my blood or whatever. But if that is what it feels like, and I am a young, healthy female, what about people who are immunocompromised? What about the elderly? I mean, this thing, like I said, I think I was in Walgreens or CVS, and I just was not feeling so good. My whole body hurt so bad. And I just felt like I just wanted to lay on the floor. And like I said, it's not like I wanted to die, but I wanted to die. So with all this things that happened, thinking back on everything, and I was like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and get vaccinated. Because, hey, the other people that signed up for all these other studies that are COVID-19 studies already were vaccinated, the ones that received the real drug versus the placebo. And out of all of those, I believe there was only one death. And within that one death, that person, the study, what they received was unblinded, and that person received the placebo. So, COVID and feel like I want to die, or receive the vaccine. Because now I'm on vacation, but when I go back to work, there will still be positive people, COVID-19 positive people that will still be interested in these studies potentially. And I don't want to be in the room with them and possibly reinfect myself. Just a thought. Anyhow, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I know this was probably a little bit more long-winded than I expected, but I hope you guys have a great 2021. Happy New Year. Happy New Year Eve. New Year Eve and Happy New Year. And I know we're going to have a great 2021 because if we have made it this far into 2020, even until New Year's Eve, we're going to have a great 2021. So if you guys have any questions, you let me know. Like I said, I can't let out too many details because a lot of it is confidential. I didn't want to break HIPAA, as I had said. And this is not a video to convince you to get the vaccine or not to get the vaccine. But I think there are a lot of things to consider outside of the science with everything that I had told you, that a lot of people who may or may not have known more about what's going on with the vaccine, very educated people, leaders, were signing up to be guinea pigs. And it wasn't even, like I said, out of solidarity with everyone. It was just, get me to the front of the line and get me vaccinated, including someone in the White House. I find that to be very interesting. Alrighty. See you guys later. Be blessed.